I sat at my glass desk, sunlight spilling across the silk blouse I had chosen for this morning, the fabric cool against my skin. The city hummed outside my window, a quiet reminder of how far I'd come, and how hidden my real life still was from the people who were supposed to know me best. My phone buzzed, jolting me from a rare moment of calm. I glanced at the screen. A message from Mom, short and sharp like always. "Why did you send $2,900? Your sister barely sends anything. You're selfish." The words made my chest tighten, an old ache I thought I'd buried resurfacing. I pressed my thumb against the screen, staring at the tiny digital numbers that now felt heavy with judgment. $2,900. My savings, painstakingly earned, sent because I wanted them to feel supported. Yet somehow, in their eyes, that generosity was a crime, while my sister's measly 75 cents a month passed without scrutiny. I let out a slow, controlled breath, smelling the faint aroma of coffee lingering in my office. My hands, resting on the smooth surface of my desk, felt steady, though memories of past arguments fluttered in my mind, voices yelling, the sting of dismissal, the taste of frustration. A part of me wanted to respond immediately, to justify, to fight. But another part, the stronger part, remembered the years I had spent learning to survive and thrive quietly, secretly. I sat back, letting the city noise filter in, a quiet, ironic smile tugging at my lips. They thought they knew me. They had no idea. I remember that night like it was yesterday, though I was only 22, still living in the cramped apartment my parents had reluctantly helped me rent. I had just received my first paycheck from a freelance design gig, a modest sum, but it felt like freedom. I walked into the kitchen where Mom was chopping vegetables, and Dad sat at the table, reviewing bills with his signature frown. "I want to send some money," I said carefully, trying to keep my voice steady. "I thought I could help with the bills." Mom's knife paused mid-chop. Her eyes narrowed, sharp as the blade in her hand. $2,900? Are you out of your mind? That's more than you should even have." I swallowed hard. "It's what I've earned. I want to help." Dad slammed the paper down. "Selfish. You're being selfish, thinking you can throw money at problems." His words hit me like ice, the sting familiar from years of being dismissed whenever I tried to assert myself. My hands trembled, clutching the edge of the counter. "I'm not being selfish. I just want to contribute. And your sister?" Mom's voice dripped with disdain. "She barely sends anything. Yet you." She shook her head, as if my generosity were a personal insult. I wanted to scream, to make them see, but the words lodged in my throat. Instead, I went to my bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, heart hammering, tears threatening to fall. That night, my grandmother's words echoed in my head. "You don't need anyone's approval to know your worth. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk your own path." I had inherited an old, leather-bound notebook from her, filled with notes about courage, independence, and resilience. That night, I opened it and read her scribbles until the tears finally came, not of defeat, but of resolve. By the time dawn broke, I had made a decision. I would no longer wait for their permission or approval. I would carve out my own life, piece by piece, dollar by dollar, until no one could question my choices or my worth. That night marked the first real step toward independence, and the beginning of the secret journey that would one day make them see me differently. After that night, everything changed. I poured myself into my work with a focus I hadn't known I possessed. The first months were brutal, long nights hunched over a laptop in a tiny apartment, caffeine my only companion, the hum of fluorescent lights my soundtrack. Every client email, every minor success felt monumental. I learned to code, to design, to negotiate. I became a student of resilience, fueled by the memory of my parents' disbelief. Then came Maya, my mentor, a woman 10 years my senior, who ran a boutique creative agency. She noticed me at a freelance networking event and said, almost casually, "You have vision, but you lack confidence. I can fix that." I laughed at first, thinking, Confidence is the one thing I'll never get from my family. But under her guidance, I flourished. She taught me not just strategy, but poise. How to enter a room and make people listen, how to pitch an idea without apology, how to value my work and demand respect. Money was scarce, but I learned to stretch every dollar. I saved obsessively, tracked every client payment, every expense, every tiny profit. The first big win, a branding project for a startup, felt like an avalanche of triumph. I could finally taste the freedom I'd imagined in those tear-streaked nights of doubt. Each project built on the last, and slowly, carefully, I amassed something remarkable. Through it all, I kept my family in the dark. My Instagram feed was a curated illusion. Coffee shop selfies, vacation snapshots, vague career mentions. No one knew about the deals I was closing, the office I rented, the clients who sought me out by name. Even calls with mom and dad were polite and neutral. I wanted no lectures, no arguments, no reminders of the girl they had criticized for her generosity. Yet I never forgot the lesson my grandmother had left me. The leather-bound notebook, the words about courage and self-worth. They became my secret companion, the silent witness to every late-night victory and every small heartbreak along the way. By the time I was 29, I had built a life that even I sometimes struggled to believe was mine. An elegant apartment overlooking the city, my own design studio, clients who trusted me without hesitation. Every dollar I had earned was a statement, a quiet rebellion against the voices that once told me I was selfish for trying to help. And yet, there was a part of me that waited, patiently, for the day my family would finally see the truth, not just in numbers, but in the woman I had become. The knock on my door came on a crisp Saturday morning. I wasn't expecting anyone, but there they were. Mom and Dad, flanked by my sister, their expressions a mixture of expectation and thinly veiled judgment. They probably imagined a small, struggling version of me, the girl who once sent $2,900 and got called selfish in return. I opened the door with a calm smile, letting them step into the space I had carefully built, piece by piece, dollar by dollar, hour by hour. Sunlight spilled across the living room, highlighting walls adorned with abstract art I had commissioned from rising local artists and bookshelves heavy with volumes that chronicled my growth in design, entrepreneurship, and leadership. My studio was visible through the glass partitions, sleek, organized, humming with quiet energy. Mom's eyes darted around, landing on a framed photo of me receiving an award at a national design conference. Her mouth opened, then closed, and she looked at Dad as if searching for some excuse to speak. This isn't what I expected," she whispered finally, the words trembling on the edge of disbelief. I gestured to the coffee table, where my laptop displayed my current projects, client testimonials, and upcoming contracts. "I wanted to show you something," I said softly, letting them absorb the details before speaking further. They watched as I outlined my work, my income, my investments, and my ownership of the agency I had started from scratch. The words themselves didn't feel like a triumph. It was the silence afterward that carried the weight. Mom's hand flew to her mouth, Dad's shoulders sagged, and my sister's eyes widened, a mix of awe and guilt crossing her face. "I know you thought I was selfish," I continued, my voice steady but calm, "because I sent money when I could. You criticized me for trying to help, and you overlooked my sister's token contributions, 75 cents a month if you recall. But I never stopped caring. I just wanted to make sure that when I gave, it was meaningful and sustainable." Their reactions shifted in real time. Mom's hands fidgeted with her ring, Dad avoided my gaze, and my sister swallowed hard, the lesson of inconsistency suddenly clear. I paused, letting the room breathe. "This isn't about guilt," I said. "It's about seeing me, the woman I've become, not the girl you thought I was." The room felt heavy with unspoken truths. They had walked in expecting to find a girl constrained by their judgments, and instead, they faced a woman whose vision, perseverance, and resilience had created an entire world they had once doubted she could navigate. "I've worked hard, Mom, Dad. Every dollar, every late night, every setback, it all led here. And now, you're seeing me at my best. Not because I wanted to prove you wrong, but because I believed in myself when no one else did. The disbelief in their eyes slowly morphed into something more complicated, a mix of shame, awe, and recognition. They couldn't deny what stood before them. The truth of my success, the tangible proof of my independence, and the woman I had always been, even when they failed to see it. I could see it in their eyes, the realization that the balance of power had shifted. I was no longer the girl who waited for approval, the daughter whose generosity was twisted into selfishness. I was the woman who decided the terms now, and I intended to make those terms clear. Let's be honest, I began, my voice calm but unyielding. I can help, but it will only work if things change. I'm not here to fix your habits or shield you from the consequences of your choices anymore. Mom looked startled, her hands tightening around the strap of her bag. What do you mean? I leaned against the edge of my desk, letting my words land carefully. First, Dad, you need to stop dismissing anyone's efforts, especially mine. A criticism without understanding only breeds resentment. I want you to try listening before judging. No more belittling gestures. No more harsh words without context. And Mom, you need to see generosity for what it truly is, without comparing it to others. Their faces shifted, a mixture of defensiveness and acknowledgement. My sister, younger and perpetually sheltered, shrank back slightly. I turned to her. And you need to take responsibility. Sending 75 cents every month isn't support, it's tokenism. If you want to be part of our family, really contribute, you have to show consistency, thoughtfulness, and effort. It's not about money, it's about commitment. I paused, letting the weight of my expectations sink in. Then I softened slightly, letting the warmth of care come through. I'm not punishing anyone. I want us to grow together, to create relationships based on respect and honesty. But I will not go back to bending under patterns that hurt me. This is about emotional growth, not just financial contribution. Their reactions were varied. Dad nodded slowly, perhaps absorbing the lesson for the first time. Mom's eyes shimmered with emotion, a silent apology forming. My sister's shoulders slumped, but I could see determination flicker in her eyes, the seed of change. I stepped back, gesturing to the space around us. The office, the artwork, the little personal touches that told my story. This is what comes from taking responsibility for yourself. Every decision, every dollar, every sacrifice. I want us to move forward, but only if we all commit to growth, accountability, and respect. The room felt charged, not with anger, but with possibility. For the first time, I could see that change wasn't just about me proving my worth, it was about giving them the chance to rise to the occasion. They would have to meet me at my level, emotionally and mentally, or risk being left behind. I smiled, letting the tension ease. Power wasn't just about money or success. It was about boundaries, self-respect, and insisting that others meet you where you belong. And now, for the first time, I was fully in control of both. Weeks passed after that confrontation, and the shift was subtle but unmistakable. Dad began asking for advice before making judgments, listening instead of dismissing. Mom started noticing small acts of generosity, not just in dollars, but in attention, care, and thoughtfulness. My sister, once content to send 75 cents a month, now contributed meaningfully, asking questions, taking initiative, and showing pride in our shared family successes. I watched it all quietly, my heart swelling with a mixture of relief and cautious hope. Change wasn't instant, but the seeds had taken root. They were learning, stumbling, but moving forward. And I realized that my role wasn't to fix them. It was to stand firm in my boundaries, to offer guidance when it was wanted, and to let them grow into their own responsibility. One evening, I pulled out my grandmother's leather-bound notebook, the one I had clung to during my early struggles. Her handwriting had faded with time, but the words remained sharp and comforting. Your worth is not measured by others' approval, but by the courage to stand for yourself. I traced the lines with my finger, smiling at the reminder that had carried me from doubt to triumph. Looking around my apartment, my studio, my life, I felt a profound sense of closure. I had endured the criticism, the belittling, the misunderstandings, and I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. I had learned that true power came not from wealth alone, but from resilience, self-respect, and the ability to hold others accountable while offering a hand when they chose to rise. That night, I poured myself a cup of coffee, watching the city lights shimmer below. The air smelled faintly of jasmine from the balcony garden I had planted months earlier. My phone sat quietly on the counter, silent for once, a small reminder that I could control my world and my narrative. I took a slow breath and whispered to myself, a final affirmation of everything I had become. I gave when it mattered, I stood when it was hard, and I grew when they doubted me. And now, I am unstoppable. The words felt like a promise, not just to myself, but to the woman I had fought so hard to become. Independent, strong, and uncompromising in her worth, finally, fully, unapologetically me.